Washington's clear-thinking headquarters. The Morning Majority, 5 to 9 on 630 WMAL.
8:37 on WMAL. Brian Eve and Tony Blankley in this morning on the Morning Majority. Pleased to be joined now by Nick Gillespie from Reason.com, one of my go-to websites in the morning when I first get into work. Morning, Nick. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for having me on.
Sure. Start off, you consider yourself a libertarian, right?
Whether I do or not, I am regularly accused of it, and I offer no defense.
Okay, fair enough. What do you think of Paul Ryan's budget? Of all the, most people are, or conservatives at least, have given it a warm response, not necessarily, it's not like a hot tub level, but it's given a warm response to it yet. But what do you think of the budget for Paul Ryan?
I think that there are certain elements that are worth celebrating and pursuing, but overall it spends way too much, and it never, even in its best assumptions, comes close to covering the amount of spending that it says. So just to put it, to put these in perspective, Obama's plan in 2021 would be spending $5.7 trillion. Paul Ryan's would be spending $4.7 trillion. And the Congressional Budget Office says that we'll have about $3.7 trillion to spend in 2021. So even Paul Ryan's plan is still, bringing in $1 trillion in deficit spending that far out. What I like about Paul Ryan's plan is the block granting, or the move on entitlements to talk about block granting them, so that we change from having an open-ended spending system on things like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, to something where the federal government can actually predict what it's going to be spending and enforce that, and that'll force efficiencies throughout the system.
Nick, Tony Blankley here.
Hi, Tony.
Hi. Are there any candidates potentially at the Republican side that appeal to you, or do you think that whoever the Libertarian candidate is going to be able to get the normal Libertarian vote at least?
Yeah. And one quick thing about the budget plans. I think if you look at Rand Paul's 5-year plan to balance the budget, or the Republican Study Committee's plan, a 10-year plan to essentially balance the budget at 18% spending of equal to 18% of GDP. I think both of those are worth a long look, and they should. The other thing that I like about Ryan's plan is that it made Obama's plan totally obsolete and irrelevant, and it now represents, I hope, the upper limit of what people would consider spending 10 years out. And these other plans, which are actually serious, balanced budget amendments that stem from principled views of what government should be doing and how it should be doing it, I hope those come into play. In terms of the presidential race, I like Ron Paul a lot, and I think this year, or for 2012, the candidate who excites me the most early on is Gary Johnson, the 2-term Republican former governor of New Mexico, who is as close to any candidate has ever shown, has both elected management, administrative experience, and is also, he's for open borders. He's for ending the drug war. He's for ending overseas wars while maintaining a strong defense. He's for gay marriage. He is for cutting spending, and he's actually shown that he's able to stop tax increases at the state level and also get rid of a lot of redundant government employees. I think whether or not he or Ron Paul will ever get close to being the candidate, that's always a long shot. But I hope that they dramatically inform what the Republican field is talking about, because if they don't, we might as well stay with Obama, as far as I'm concerned.
Really? And say Chris Christie versus Obama, and you'd go for...
Well, Chris Christie has said that he's not running.
I know.
So,
well, a lot of people have said a lot of stuff, but...
Yeah, and it all remains to be seen. The other guy, by the way, who is a very interesting character in all of this, who is almost certainly not going to run for president, but may be a viable vice presidential candidate, is the governor of Puerto Rico, Luis Fortuño, who has cut government spending and employees by about 20% a couple of years into his term as governor. He's a Republican, a governor of Puerto Rico. He favors bringing Puerto Rico into the United States as a state. And he's shown how to reduce the size and scope of government and increase the local economy. He would be a very interesting character. And, Chris Christie is an interesting guy, although when you look at his budget, he's like a lot of state governors. John Kasich is another who sometimes gets mentioned. Kasich in his first budget actually increased the spending over 2 years by 11%. Chris Christie has not in the bottom line. He is great on rhetoric and great on posturing, which is important, but he actually hasn't delivered serious overall budget cuts.
I want to get back to you said that anybody would I'd rather have Obama than the rest of the field. I hear that a lot from libertarians. Why? I mean, why would Obama be better than just say Newt Gingrich?
Newt Gingrich, and obviously Tony has a warm personal relationship with him. But
or take Newt or Pawlenty or whoever.
Okay, well, here, my basic reason I've never voted. The only time I voted for a major party candidate was my first presidential vote in 1984 when I voted for Walter Mondale, because as a young and generally stupid person, I admired his moxie in openly saying he was going to raise taxes, unlike Reagan, who did actually raise taxes in his second term overall. But in any case, if Obama stays in the White House, Obama has been a disaster. And the worst thing I think that you can say about Obama, which is also totally true, is that he is acting like a third term of George W. Bush. He's blowing out the stops on spending. He's taken all of the massive spending programs and war programs that Bush started and has, put them on steroids or Viagra or whatever Medicare prescription Part D drug is covered by the by federal spending. He's awful, but if he's in office, it will sharpen the Republican, antagonism to that. And if the worst thing we end up with is some variation on what happened in the second half of the 90s during Bill Clinton's second term, I can live with that. It's not optimal. I mean, I think people like Gary Johnson and Ron Paul actually have forward-looking visions of how government should act in the 21st century, which, we're already 10 years in, and we're partying like it's 1979, for God's sake.
Let me ask you just a quick question. Have you seen Atlas Shrugged yet, Part 1, and what do you think of it?
Yeah, we have, or I have, and at Reason.com and at Reason.tv, we've got a ton of resources and videos. We talked a lot with the filmmakers as they were doing it. We've got behind-the-scenes footage, and on Saturday night at a Reason event, we actually had an hour-long Q&A session with the producers and an actor from the movie. I am not a Randian. I never really read Rand. I've read her essays and a couple of her novels, not Atlas Shrugged. I thought the movie was good, and it's what I've always been interested in with Rand is, like Jack Kerouac in the 50s, the intense kind of bond that she forms with her readership, including the movie. The people I know who are really into Rand really love the movie.
Yeah, you're right.
It's
almost a cult relationship. I was an objectivist when I was a kid.
Oh my God!
All right, Nick. Thanks for coming on the show. We appreciate it.